Welcome to Project Data Hunter. The purpose of this project is to gather, analyze, and share data on hunting strategies. Now let me give you an example. If you're out on an elk hunt, should you be using bull calls or cow calls to locate elk? How does that change throughout September and October, maybe even August? Well, the purpose of this project is to give you a statistical analysis and actually give you an answer depending on the date, the time, the moon cycle, the conditions, on, for example, how to locate elk, whether that be bull calls or cow calls. Another example would be broadheads. Should you be using fixed or mechanical? Which one has a higher injury rate? Which one, when shot at an animal, are recovered with less distance? Now, I am tired of hearing anecdotes and hearsay. Why is there no data on this information? Why is no one tracking actual statistics on this? That is the purpose of this project, to fill that gap. Alright, before I jump into the specifics of the data that's going to be recorded and how that's going to be done, I want to talk about these categories first. Now, I have a simple formula up here on the board for hunting success. It can be used pretty much for any hunt, but I'm going to talk about elk hunting for this scenario. All it is the time you spend hunting in the field times the amount of animals you can find within that given time, times your success rate of getting within range of the animals you locate, times how effective you are at killing and recovering those animals you're able to get within range of. So let me give you an example here. Let's say you're on an elk hunt. Let's say you have 6 days for that elk hunt. Pretty typical, about a week long. Let's say you're able to, I'm going to say you need to locate 6 bulls within that week. Why 6? Well, just because you locate them doesn't mean they're dead. So if you locate 6, you need to get within range of them. So let's say your spot and stock success is 1 in 3. Or if you're calling in elk using sequences, cow calls, bull bugles, let's say you're successful 1 in 3 times. And that is honestly very generous. That is not the reality for most of us hunters. So if you're able to call in or spot and stock 1 in 3 elk, that means of those 6 bulls, you're getting within killing range of 2. And just because you get within killing range, just because you shoot at a bull, doesn't mean you're recovering it. If you think otherwise, I got bad news for you. Let's say your recovery rate is 1 in 2 with archery. With the rifle, I'm sure it's higher. You need to locate 6 bulls and just to kill 1. And if you're on a 6-day hunt, 7-day hunt, that means you better be finding a bull every single day. And if you've ever been on a public, over-the-counter elk hunt, I'm sure you understand how difficult that is and how rare that is. So the reason I have these broken down into categories like this is, well, that's what you get when you put an agent into hunting. You start getting formulas and numbers and percentages and shit. But it really does a good job of breaking these down into categories of things that we can maximize and improve on to boost our odds of success. And with public over-the-counter elk hunts being around 5 to 10% success rate, we need to get our odds of success as high as possible. So let me give you an example. If we can locate twice as many bulls in the same amount of time as somebody else, if we can locate 12 instead of 6, that's going to double our odds of success. Why? If this becomes a 12, that becomes a 4. That means we're getting 4 opportunities at harvesting a bull. Same thing if we can double our odds of calling in a bull, or get twice as good at spot and stock. If we were only able to call in 1 out of 3 bulls, 33% chance of calling in every single bull we hear, we can double that to 66. This also becomes a 4. That means we're getting 4 opportunities to kill a bull. Now, from what I see from other hunters and myself, we struggle with different categories of this formula depending on whether it's archery or rifle. Getting enough time hunting in the field, we all struggle with. And that has less to do with family and work, and it has a lot more to do with quitting early and logistical planning. It's something I certainly struggled with the first 2 years because I was quitting early. I was being a little bitch. Until I made it a point to hunt every single day I had planned, regardless of what happened. Locating elk. This is where rifle hunters really struggled with. Something I really struggled with the first 2 years I was hunting rifle. I couldn't find elk to save my life. And when I talk to other hunters out in the field, it's rare I talk to any hunter who's seen 1 bull, like the whole season, let alone cows. They don't see 6 bulls, they see 0. If you're a rifle hunter, this is the key to your success, is finding elk. Now for archery, it's a lot different. Generally, we're hearing more elk. We're seeing them move because it's the rut. The season's based around the rut usually. So we find them. We just struggle with getting in range and harvesting them and killing and recovering them. When I talk to other hunters, success rate for hearing a bull bugle and then calling that bull into you, it's around 10%. It is rough. It's a hard thing to do, to hear that bull, read his emotional behavior, read where he's at, and then choosing the right sequence to get him to come all the way into you to where you have a clean, free shot where your arrow is free of obstruction. It's a difficult thing to do. And when I talk to professional guides, they tell me about 1 out of every 2 bulls that's shot at is recovered. A lot of those are missed shots, clean misses. A lot of those are bad shots where the animal gets injured, and a lot of times they just lose blood trail, and there's no elk to be found. So it's rough. This paints a good picture as to why over-the-counter public elk hunts are so rough and why success rates are around 5 to 10%. So I say all of that to say this is why we need a statistical analysis on hunting strategies. Again, the purpose of Project Data Hunter is to gather, analyze, collect, and then share data on which hunting strategies are working. And when I say hunting strategies, I mean, again, should you be bull bugling? Should you be cow calling? What if it's September 10th versus September 1st? What if it's the middle of October? Which one gives you the best chance of locating as many bulls as possible? Same for getting within range. Again, if you're calling, should you be calling aggressively? Should you be using cow calls? Should you be using calf calls? Right? These are all things that we need to boost these numbers as much as possible. We need statistical analysis on what's going to give us the best odds. And then same for killing too. Is 300 Win Mag, is that the bare minimum? And is 6.5 Creedmoor too small? Should you be using fixed or mechanical broadheads? This is stuff that we need answers on, that we don't have the data on this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're going to collect this data, how we're going to process it, how we're going to analyze it and share it. I was hunting this bull. I was able to harvest this bull this past year, and I was marking all my location bugles in Onyx. And I was also marking my cold calling sequences and what kind of cold calling sequence I was doing in Onyx. And I was like, in a couple years, I'm going to have enough data points I can go back and analyze which sequences work the best for, how does the time of year affect it? How does the moon affect it? And I was like, it'd be better than just me collecting this data. If I had 10 of my friends collecting this data, if I had 10 other hunters that were out each season collecting this data and sharing it with me, that would give us a pretty good data set. I was like, it'd be even better than that if I could put 100 hunters together. And well, I don't know 100 hunters, unfortunately. And that's the point of this podcast. That's the point of this channel, is to get hunters together that are willing to collect data on Onyx and then share it with me so I can process and analyze it. And while I can't afford to pay 100 hunters, unfortunately, if you're willing to help out with this project, drop a comment below. I will leave all my contact information in the description. Reach out to me. What I can do is, at the end of the hunting season, I can sit down with you and go over your specific data and say, well, you're really good at calling elk and you're really good at killing them once you get them in. You just need to be more efficient at calling in the bulls that you are able to locate. That's something I can do. I really do. I want to get this started as soon as possible. Obviously, we want to get this up and going before next hunting season, 2026. So the sooner, the better. Reach out to me, and we can get this project going. I will dive deeper into the specific data points and how those are going to be recorded next week in next week's episode. But for the most part, if you're a hunter out there, you're clicking 2 buttons in your Onyx. You're clicking Mark My Location, and you're clicking Add to Folder. You can hide it on your map if you like. It doesn't matter. Occasionally, you'll have to type something into your notes, but for the most part, Mark My Location and Add to Folder. As far as the data processing part, I work in software. I've created databases from scratch. I've created APIs. I've created machine learning algorithms from scratch. I can do all the data processing part. The hard part is just getting 100 strangers together that are willing to share their information so that I can collect it and share the results back with you guys. I've also never made a YouTube video before. I've never recorded myself. It's a lot harder than it looks than I thought it would be. I've never made a podcast before. I've never edited a video before. So it's going to be a little awkward as it goes. But hopefully it'll get better and smoother as they come out. I'll be doing weekly videos and I'll dive more into the expectations of this channel. Alright, so what can you expect from this channel in the upcoming year? Right now, we're just at the end of the 2025 season, so we have about 8 or 10 months before the hunting season starts in 2026. So I really want to focus on elk this year. That's going to be the main focus, and then we'll jump into bear and deer and jump into other species. But for this first year, just elk. So after this next episode where I talk about the specific data points, I'm going to jump into weekly studies. I'm super excited for this. There's so many studies out there on elk behavior and animal behavior, from social structure to eating habits to rut behavior and moving patterns. There's so much out there, and no one's covering it. I can go on YouTube and I can listen to Jeff Nippard talk about why bench press is better than cable fly, why you'll grow more muscle doing this exercise versus that exercise, right? And when I started hunting a couple years ago, I was looking for data like that on hunting, but no one covers that kind of stuff. So I'm super excited to do a deep dive into these studies. I'm going to make it easy to consume for someone who is just starting out hunting, and so they can turn that information into practical hunting strategies. And I'm also going to make it so if you're a veteran and you've been hunting for 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years, and you really want to get into the minutia of things, you can use this information. So super excited for that. It's going to be each week. It'll be a long format video on Spotify and YouTube, so expect that. I will also be covering my past hunting season, including how I killed this big guy, the other bulls that I called in, my general strategies that I used, and the successes and failures of those. I'll also be covering my mule deer season that I just had a couple weeks ago. It was successful, a little embarrassing. I'll jump into that. I also have a cow elk hunt coming up in a couple weeks. I'm using a controversial caliber. It rhymes with need more, but it does not start with a 6. So success or fail, I'll be posting the results of that in the next couple weeks here. I'm also doing a lot of mountain lion hunting. I'm just getting into spot and stock for mountain lion. My goal is to kill one this winter. Expect some content on that. So if you're interested in this type of statistical analysis, going in deep into studies and data on hunting strategies, make sure you like and subscribe, or whatever the fuck these YouTubers say. Make sure you get notified when these new videos come out. They will be every single week at least. So stay tuned and see you next week.